are they? You're watching BNSM, the stock game right here on ET Now. This is day 3 and I'm Devina Menon.
Hi Devina, I'm Avan Dabas. Of course, it's a very exciting day. We gave it a miss yesterday because of the credit policy, but we'll be focusing on all of their stuff in today's session as well as give you a recap of what happened yesterday with their portfolios. Let's first give you a glimpse as to what the stock game is all about. Here are the rules. We give an amount of 5 lakh rupees to our 3 experts who join in from Monday up until Friday. With this 5 lakh rupees, they're supposed to build a portfolio and 2 compulsory turns are required every day. If any stop losses hit, any targets achieved, they must change those 2 stocks. They can have one stock coming in from the F&O space, and in the cash space, in case there is a short call, they must replace it with a new stock every single day. Friday, of course, is the day when we declare who emerges triumphant with BNSM, the stock game. So let's start off by bringing on board our experts who are with us today. We've got Shrikant Shetty, Hemant Kapadia, as well as Shardul Kulkarni, who are in it to win it. Let's first give you a glimpse as to what their portfolios looked like yesterday.
Oh yes, and yesterday, day 2, though we couldn't take it and discuss each and every individual stock. This is how their portfolio stood at the end of the day. We had Shrikant Shetty. These are the stocks in his portfolio on day 2. He had an Orchid Chemicals, an SKNL, ICICI Bank, and Escorts. It was a long-only portfolio. But remember, the market condition yesterday, post the credit policy, was not very favorable. So stop losses got hit on Orchid, ICICI, as well as Escorts. On to Hemant Kapadia's portfolio. As of day 3, he also has stop losses getting triggered. Syndicate Bank was a call that he went long on. BS Utilities, that's where the stop loss got hit. We had Neverland Lignite, which he went long on, and HOEC also stop loss getting hit there for him. So everybody in totality had somewhat of a bad day yesterday. And finally, on to Shardul's portfolio, he didn't have a single stop loss or a target getting triggered. He had long calls in Ashok Leyland, JP Associates, and Automobile Global, and a tin plate was what he had. But that's yesterday, and their performance, as we know, has already been clocked in. Let's go ahead and see what's lined up in today's session and their new portfolios as of day 3. Let's start off with you, Shrikant. In terms of replacements that you've made, I believe you've had to replace all of the stocks in your portfolio.
Yeah, I had to replace all the stocks. So I've replaced them with IRV, OptiCircuit, GSPL, and Orchid Chemical.
All right, so that's what his new portfolio looks like. All long calls coming in across the board for Shrikant Shetty. Let's move on then and find out what Shardul Kulkarni has in store for us. None of the target prices or stop losses are triggered for you, Shardul, but run us through the stocks that you've retained and the new ones.
Considering that the market has moved yesterday from a very strong top and formed a very strong bearish engulfing pattern, we have 2 stocks on the sell side. One is LIC Housing Finance and the other is Tata Motors. Besides that, we would retain on Mobile Global as well as
We'll just come back in a moment from our HCL Technologies. We saw the results come out. Management is addressing the media.
Whether you take the European sovereign debt issues or whether you take the U.S. Basic economic issues, you take Middle East, you take Japan, there are concerns and headwinds right across. Those headwinds are also reflected in the lower cost of the unemployment issues, which we are seeing in many countries, because of which the governments are responding to those challenges in different ways than we are used to in our business, and therefore there are headwinds to that extent also. But interestingly, there is one tailwind which we figured out fairly early in this year and which turned out to be right. The tailwind is that the customers are pretty unhappy with their existing customers. So typically, 95% of contracts which come in for rebid go back to the vendor which they already have, and only 5% of those bids go to a new vendor. In this particular quarter, in actually last 4 months, we have seen that 5% go to 30%. So there are 30% of those deals churning to new vendors. And that gives us a big opportunity. That means that suddenly the total IT outsourcing flow which is coming into the market is bigger than it ever was. And our win ratios are also improving because those deals are not going back to existing vendors, but going to new vendors. If you look at the TPI report which came out 2 days ago, they said something very interesting. They said that the overall IT spend is going down, which is what we have been saying, but a lot of churn is happening on vendors, and that is growing by about 30%. The second thing we interestingly say is that they are saying that the H2 is going to be a bigger performance on deals than H1. and that is largely being driven by transformation initiatives which some customers want to initiate, and secondly, coming out of the churn. The third thing which they say is a validation the fact that our strategy is correct, that HCL is the only Indian service provider in the top 10 outsourcers in both America and in the rest of the world. And that again validates that our focus on total IT outsourcing and being the only Indian vendor to play and compete in the top 10 space in both these critical markets is a validation of what we started as invest phase in July to September has been the right strategy. The last view is on the operating side. One of the things you would see about HCL is not only that we demonstrated significant growth higher than industry averages and increased our market share over this period of time, we also demonstrated that when we want, we can increase the margins, which is what you saw in the last 3 quarters. But we also showed and demonstrated that when everybody's DSO and working capital is going up, we can actually exercise control on those elements also and bring them down. So the cash conversion of net income and the days sales outstanding in our case has actually been going down rather than going up. So it's a combination of these factors which should indicate to the market that number one, we think fairly strategically, make forward investments to follow what we think is right, and then demonstrate to the market that we can recover whatever investments we make in those strategies. So that is the summary of this year, and that is the summary of this quarter. I'd like Anil, our CFO, to share with you what the highlights of the financials of this quarter is. And I'm also joined with 2 of our vertical leaders, and all verticals report into them, Sanjeev, who's head of consumer and manufacturing, and Prem, who's head of healthcare and financial services. And I'm also joined with Anand Gupta, who heads our infrastructure and public services, to comment on what are the mega trends they are seeing in the market space. So let's start with Anand.
All right, that's the management of HCL Tech talking about the numbers and the environment as a whole, and talking about tailwind where clients are not going back to their old vendors. In fact, there are a possibility of 30% now going to new vendors, and HCL Tech can obviously capitalize on the same because of their prices and the bidding that they've been going through as well. Overall, the results were in line with estimates. You had a top line number of 4,300 crore rupees is what they clocked in, with a PAT figure of about 510 crore rupees. We were estimating about 500 crore rupees. The EBITDA, the margins come in at about 18.5%. But that's HCL Technologies. We were talking about, you can see the management interview at 12 o'clock sharp, but we were talking about buy now, sell now, the stock game, and Shardul was running us through his portfolio. Shardul, I'm sorry we interrupted you, but you can highlight the stocks in your portfolio now.
So basically we have retained 2 stocks, and we have moved on because yesterday the market conditions were quite bearish, and I would expect those particular sentiments to continue in today's trading session. We are basically negative on 2 counters. One is LIC Housing Finance and the other is Tata Motors. So these 2 stocks will be recommended on the short side, whereas we are still on mobile as well as Tinplate.
Okay, that's Shardul's portfolio. Hemen, let's come across to you now. You also have 2 sell calls and 2 buy calls coming in because you had to churn an entirely new portfolio for today.
Yes, Aman. I think yesterday was a disaster. So, no thanks to the HCL Governor. But yes, I think we saw sharp high volume sell-off yesterday. I think there's going to be a small spillover. I'm not sure if there's a big spillover. There's a lot of support at lower levels. So I have a sell call on VIP Industries once again, from a short-term or a very intraday sort of point of view, and the Godrej Industries, while I have a buy on Adani Power and Asian Paints.
All right. Those were stocks from Hemen's portfolio, the new portfolio. Quickly run you through calculator place hours of day 3 and how they're standing up at this point in time, who's taking the lead. So Shrikant Shetty's portfolio is entirely in the green, making good money on all of the stocks that he has, including an IRB Optus. So the fresh portfolio making him good money of 1.5%. Overall, 7,300 rupees is what he's making. Coming to Hemen Kapadia's portfolio, he's got a streak of red across the board for him. VIP, Godrej Industries, Adani Power, and Asian Paints losing out. So he's down 1.5%, almost 8,000 rupees lost since day 1. Shardul Kulkarni, it's a 50-50 split there. On mobile not doing well for him, and not even an LIC Housing Finance, but Tata Motors and Tinplate doing well. He's making 3,200 rupees at last count. On to individual stocks then. The first stock that Shrikant has in his portfolio, Shrikant, IRB Infra is the stock that you've got in your portfolio. You've got a buy call on that one. Good fundamental news as well, where the subsidiary has executed the concession agreement with NHAI for a project for 6 landing in Ahmedabad to Vadodara. That's obviously a good movement. Stocks up closer to 1% in the session as well.
True, this announcement came a few days back, but there was a couple of negative news which happened over the period. One was the IT raid regarding news, and the second one being obviously the reported hike which came through yesterday, which is also a negative on the working capital side. It will mean probably more cost for the company. So I think this negative news flows have got to some extent discounted, and that's where I've taken a risk with the stock. The overall performance in the current quarter has been quite good. In fact, the top line it has outperformed the expectations. Similarly, we're expecting good growth coming through as the order flows have improved. So overall, longer term perspective, the stock definitely looks good. Within the infrastructure space, it's probably one of the better ones with holding of good assets in the road space particularly. So that's why we're seeing on a longer term basis, we see target about 225 to 250 levels. From a short term perspective, I've taken a trading call. I see a target of about 190 to 195 levels in the short term.
Okay, so fundamentals certainly in place for this one. IRB Infra, a long-term target of about 250, but for the game, Shrikant places it at 195 with a stop at 179. Shardul, we'll talk about the first stock which you've retained in your portfolio from yesterday. It's a non-mobile July futures, a buy on that one.
Yes, actually what happened was that I was supposed to retain 2 stocks and not churn all the 4 of them, but I would have retained template and moved out with on mobile. The stock has already moved near the stop loss levels and hit the stop loss. What the logic was behind this particular counter was that you were seeing that a very strong reversal pattern has taken place. But unfortunately, because of the RBI monetary policy, the whole market came down and the stop loss was hit in today's morning's trading session. It was just say 50 paise away from the stop loss in yesterday's trading session. So I didn't have too much to lose in today's session, so I have retained this particular counter. Unfortunately, the stop loss has been hit.
Alright, but still not that much of a cut coming in there. Booking a very marginal loss on non-mobile global there. Hemant, come to you. Your first pick was a short call on a VIP industry, and stop loss has been triggered there.
Yes, that's very surprising, Devina, because it gave a high volume downward breakout. It had closed below the 4 trading session lows. You have the daily mechanical indicators signaling negative divergence and signaling a crossover trend. So very surprising how it's gone up, but it was an intraday call, so I guess the stop loss has been triggered.
Okay, so you have the stop loss being hit on a VIP Industries. Nonetheless, a good set of numbers that were clocked in from the counter, which is very quiet in today's session at a level of 873. Let's talk about stock number 2 and find out which one it is. And you do have an Opto Circuits which you have picked. Of course, it did come out with a set of numbers higher at a level of about 281. What are the fundamentals, Shrikant, looking like for this company? And in the long term, is this a good value pick?
Yeah, if you look at the numbers also, these numbers have come out pretty strong. The top line has been a 40% kind of growth, and the bottom line is about 20% growth. If you look at the valuations front, the stock is trading at just about 12 times FY12 earnings, which is very attractive for a company which is growing at, has managed to grow consistently at around 20-25%. So I think there's scope for at least 20-25% upside from medium-term perspective in this stock, and also a good one to have from a longer-term perspective, given the kind of acquisitions and given the kind of growth trajectory they have been in. From a short-term perspective, I'm looking at a target of about 290 for this stock.
All right. From a short-term perspective, 290 on the stock, but still can expect about 25% upside, maybe say in the medium term to slightly long-term outlook, but you can still keep it in your portfolio. The stock's up 2.5% last count. Shardul, on to your stock. Tinplate is what you bought into. You got a target of 66 on this one. It's up 3.5% in today's session. So this one really working in your favor. Very close to its monthly high as well.
Yes, in case of Tinplate, what we saw is that in spite of the stock moving lower yesterday, it moved lower on very low volumes. Strong volumes were seen when the stock moved up in yesterday's session. So I think that it's a clear volume plus pattern breakout. You're seeing after consolidation, 61 was an important level. The stock has managed to cross that level on good volumes, and I would expect that this particular counter should move to around 66 in the next 1 or 2 trading sessions. We are clearly seeing that the stock was down on volumes earlier, but volumes have picked up while going up, and it's a clear pattern breakout. So I would wait for a target of around 66.
Okay, so a volume-heavy stock, a target of 66 is what Shardul places, and up and about in today's session, higher by 3%. Godrej Industries, that's a stock, Hemen, which you've got in your portfolio. You've got it as a favorite from most of the analysts as well. What's the rationale and how's it looking on the chart?
Yes, I think, Aman, what has happened that it's posted a lower top, lower bottom on the daily chart. Once again, we have the MACD signaling a sell after a month, negative divergence from the stochastic crossover sell. So, extreme short term, I think the stock is also under pressure. We moved up for 9 weeks in a row. So, we are due for a correction, I guess, and that's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at a small downside.
Alright, that's the word coming in on a Godrej Industries. A bit of a negative call on that counter, but it's higher by 1% in today's session. Just once again to pull up those calculator plates for each of our experts to see where they're standing. You have Shrikant Shetty, who has been leading, remember, since day one, and today is no exception as well. He is making a good profit on his overall portfolio since the first day. Gains coming in across the board. So all in all, he is sitting up on a gain of about 1.5% at 7,000 rupees. In third place, we've got Hemen Kapadia, in fact, who's losing on all of his stocks. You've got the stop loss hit on a VIP Industries. 1.5% is what he's losing, shaving off close to 8,000 rupees. And Shardul Kulkarni, he's sitting strong in second place, making a gain of close to 2,000, losing out on a non-mobile global on which the stop loss has been hit, as well as an LIC Housing Finance, but a gain of close to 1% of about 3,500 rupees on his total portfolio. Alright, with that we take a quick break, but we'll be discussing their third and fourth stocks in just a bit.
Welcome back. You're still watching BNS's stock game right here on 80 now, which we're playing with 3 of our experts. We've discussed stocks number 1 and stocks number 2. Let's talk about 3 and 4 right now. So let's quickly go across to Shrikant. He's got a GSPL that he's picked up this time around as a buy call. Target of 115 is what he's selected. Shrikant, we've been seeing some activity brewing about in this counter, at least with the recent buzz of tariff cuts playing up on the counter, and even CLSA has been talking about this in greater detail. What is the sense? Why have you selected a GSPL?
I think obviously the negatives about the tariff cuts have been spoken about, but the overall transmission, overall volume growth for this space is going to be quite substantial, be it for GSPL, be it for IGL. And if you look at on a relative valuation basis compared with IGL, GSPL looks fairly attractive compared to what an IGL is trading at about 20 times, while GSPL trades about 10 times earnings. So that's where I think there's scope for this company to do well. Given the kind of expansion plans they also lined up, which will also play out in the next couple of years, there's scope for good growth going ahead. In terms of trading wise, I think from a trade perspective, picked a target of about 115, which may not be achieved in a couple of days. I would be surprised if that comes through. But from short-term perspective, maybe a 15 to 20 days time frame, that's an achievable target, I think.
An ambitious target on a GSPL, and you could see the 7-day chart higher by 12%. Let's talk about an LIC Housing Finance. A good set of numbers, Shardul, but the stock has taken quite a beating and it's been fairly range-bound. So you're saying that it's a short call on this one?
Oh yes, in case of LIC Housing Finance, what we're seeing is that, on the weekly chart, stock has clearly given you a very strong channel breakdown, and I would expect that going forward, the negative sentiment should continue in case of this particular counter. So I think that from a shorter term trading perspective, 205 will be the immediate target price, with a stop loss of around 222, which is incidentally this week's high. So I think that the bearish engulfing pattern which we are seeing on the weekly chart, which happened 3 weeks back, is a very strong indicator to tell you that yes, you should be looking for shorting opportunities in case of LIC Housing Finance.
Alright, shorting opportunities for LIC Housing Finance, a target of 205, stop loss at 222. Coming to you, Hemen, your third stock, you've got a buy call on an Adani Power. A target of about 118 is what you have placed on that one. The stock is closing in on that monthly high of 115.4, but do you believe that at least, while we are playing the game, even from a medium-term to a long-term perspective, is it possible that it will make a new high beyond 144?
Devina, 144 seems slightly far off, but even from the rounding bottom, which is basically a bullish formation, you have tremendous positive divergence on the weekly charts by the MACD and the stochastic crossover buy. So, and 115 has been an important level. We haven't closed above 115 on the weekly chart for the last 10 weeks or so, Devina. So we're on the cusp of a breakout, and I think we're breaking out today. So short term, yes, it looks good. There is some resistance at 117 from the 55-week exponential moving average, barring which I think over the medium term, Devina, assuming the markets remain okay, I think we could be heading towards 128 or so. 140 plus seems likely far away, Devina.
All right, that's the word coming in on an Adani Power facing a bit of resistance at a level of 117, but that's the call coming in from Hemen. Let's talk about the last and final pick, and then it's a pharma pick that you've got, an Orchid Chemicals. It's up and away in today's session, Shrikant. Are the fundamentals sort of mirroring the kind of moves that we're seeing today?
I think there's more of negatives which have got priced into the stock. This stock is again been hammered out of shape primarily on account of the leverage issues or the stocks on the leverage front. That's where the stock has got hammered out of shape. In terms of overall numbers wise, the numbers have been fairly good for the last quarter, and for the current year also the company is able to perform fairly well in terms of growth. So I think the negatives are more or less priced, and from these valuations, a 300 kind of target looks possible from medium to longer term kind of perspective. From a trade perspective, I picked up a target of about 250 from a short term perspective.
Alright, a trade target of 250 is what Shrikant has placed on Orchid Chemicals. Sharda, before we talk about your next stock, which is Tata Motors, and it's a sell call, at least from the charts, like Avan was pointing out, Orchid Chemicals is fairly buoyant. What is the sense looking at the charts from Orchid Chemicals?
Looking at the charts, extremely short-term charts, if you see the hourly charts, yes, you are seeing that there is a probability that the stock may test the levels of 240. So from an intraday perspective, I would look at it that yes, you can place a stop loss just below the previous hammer low of around 221, and place your target at around 240.
240, 250, in that range, that's the target from both Shrikant as well as Shardul. Shardul, your own pick should pull up a Tata Motors for you from a yearly high of 1381. The stock has come down to 961, below those 1,000 level marks. Even the global sales for Tata Motors for the month of June were slightly disappointing. The street's not taking that too well. Why have you chosen this one on the short side? How much more pain is left in the counter, Shardul?
One is that on the weekly as well as on the daily charts, you're seeing that the stock is in a very strong lower top, lower bottom trend. Yesterday, there was a continuation breakdown which took place in case of Tata Motors, and I would expect the weakness to continue on the lower side. I would expect the previous bottom to be tested, which is around 905, 910 mark. Incidentally, in the intraday chart, I would look at it from a perspective that stock has decent support around 935. So 942 will be the target price for one or two trading sessions. I would expect that the stock price reaches those levels.
Okay, support levels at 935, but a sell call on a Tata Motors with a target at 942. Under pressure today as well by 1.5% at 957. Remember, yesterday, all of your rate sensitives did face quite a bit of the downside. Let's talk about the last pick then, and Asian Paints coming in from you, Hemen. Faced a bit of margin pressure. We spoke to the management today who also indicated that their cost pressures will continue. How's it shaping up on the charts? Compared to its peers, is it a favorite?
I think Asian Paints, at least on the short term, we saw an upward key reversal coming in yesterday, almost an upward bar reversal. I think you have reasonably good support at 3100, and we haven't closed below 3100 in the last 7-8 trading sessions or so. So I think despite what has happened, I thought Asian Paints was a reasonably good intraday buy.
Had an intraday buy, but the stock's down about 0.4%. He means placed the target of 32.10 on that counter. Quickly, once again, run you through the whole lot, the entire portfolio of each of our experts, tell you where they are positioned right now, if at all there's any kind of a change in their portfolio gains right now. That's Shrikant Shetty, who is the leader at this point in time. He's got good gains in an Optus Circuit, Orchid Chemicals, GSPL. Overall, almost 8,000 rupees is what he's making. Hemen Kapira, today is not a very good day. We've got losses in most of the stocks in today's session. Overall portfolio also in the red by 1.5%. And finally, on to Shardul Kulkarni's portfolio. We've got Automobile Global, where the stop loss has been triggered. Tinplate, LIC Housing Finance, as well as Tata Motors is reaping in some benefits, so about 4,600 rupees. That last count is what Shardul is making. Take time then to thank each of our experts for joining us on day 3 of the stock game. Shrikant, Shardul, Hemen, thanks very much for being with us. We'll meet you same time tomorrow with your new picks.
take a quick break on that note, but Shyam Gaikwad, it's your lucky day because Rajat Bose is going to be assessing your portfolio after this quick break.